The Scream series is one of my favourite horror franchises, and since everyone is talking about Scream 5, let's go ahead and rank the Scream movies from worst to best. Please let me know your ranking of the Scream movies in the comments below and let me know what you think of mine. Let's get started.
Hello?
It's happening. 3 attacks so far. Do you have a gun?
I'm Sydney Prescott. Of course I have a gun.
For me, coming in at last place is Scream 5. I know. People are loving this film. People are having a great time in this film, and I'm really happy about that. I'm genuinely happy that there's a Scream sequel that fans are satisfied with. They're going to see it. They're getting what they wanted. I just didn't like it. For me, one of the biggest problems was just seeing the old legacy characters not have much to do, feel tacked on, feel like they're not really there for a reason, feel like they have to kind of force themselves into the story, especially Dewey. I was really disappointed with Dewey in this movie. I don't think he was handled well at all. The people who made Scream 5 seem to have confused what made good Scream characters. Like, when they were mischievous and they were kind of naughty kids in the other films, that doesn't mean we just make them complete dickheads in this one. For some reason they can't write characters anymore that are fun to watch but still have a mischievous edge. These characters just drove me crazy. I thought they all had questionable motivation. They were obsessed with every other line was about the meta, pushed at you. Forcing it, you know, and those movies before didn't have to force it. Nothing felt real about this. It just felt like a one big meta in your face. There you go, this isn't real, nothing about this. You didn't feel any stakes, it was boring, it was bland, the kills weren't that great, the characters weren't that great. I enjoyed seeing Courtney Cox, David Arquette and Neve Campbell, but nothing that was done with them was what I wanted to see. It just felt like we have to have them in this just to get people in the cinema. It was nostalgia bait, it was everything wrong with today's sequels, and I'm really glad that people like it. I honestly am, but I just really can't get behind Scream 5. It's not unwatchable. It is not one of the worst of the modern sequels at all, so I will come back to this in a few years and see what I think. Who knows, maybe it'll go up in my estimation.
Welcome home, Sydney. Preview of coming events.
Why don't you come for me? You got the balls for that?
Oh, poor sad you. You think you're still the star.
Next on the list is Scream 4. It's not as bad as Scream 5, but for me it started the downward spiral. This was the film that for me kind of debuted this idea that Scream was just meta. That's what it was just meta. It almost felt like the makers of Scream 4 and 5 just watched Scary Movie and went, yeah, that's it, not realising that was a complete parody. And now they're just like, let's just take everything that was done in those original Scream movies and just force it so much. Scream 4 really started forcing it. Every other line these characters are talking about, they're in a movie within a movie. And if you do that, it's not clever, it's not subtle. What's great about the earlier Scream movies, it was subtle with it. It wasn't in your face with it, it wasn't forced, and you know, it almost felt like it was trying to be cool, this movie. Very unlikable characters in this. I was shocked how much I wanted to punch every character in the face. You know you're in trouble when you're rooting for Ghostface to kill the bastards. Neve Campbell in this kind of feels like, now she's in her 30s in this film, she kind of feels like a long-suffering mum to these annoying teen characters. You honestly feel like sending half of these kids to their room because they're so obnoxious. Shut up, I'm not old.
No. Maybe.
I think the use of Gale and Dewey is still pretty good in this. They're doing something meaningful in the story. I do like their involvement. I like the new assistant deputy to Dewey in this, who flirts with Dewey in front of Gale, as you do. She wasn't as good in Scream 5. I feel like there was a good little dynamic in this. And you know, Scream 4, I'm placing it over Scream 5, so I don't completely hate the film. I just feel like there was lots of seeds of bad things going on. It's still got slasher movie energy and tension and suspense. It's got some fun, entertaining sequences, but this really needed to be the last one. It felt like the life was draining away and that you were forcing it. And I do feel like the revelation of the killer is, she's a bit cringe. Scream 4 is okay, I can watch it, I can sit there and watch it, but it's not great, and it completely has lost that freshness, that energy, that enthusiasm of the early Scream movies.
It was a simple game, Cotton. You should have told me where Sydney was. Now, you lose.
And next on the list is Scream 3. I know a lot of people don't like this film, and I've never understood it. I feel like this is the movie that focuses most on Sydney's trauma. I feel like she has a big character journey in Scream 3. I feel like Scream 3 is a culmination. It's treated like a culmination, like it is going to be the last one. So Sydney has a lot in this. She's uncovering her mother's past. She's learning to face and not be scared anymore. She has a kind of relationship back and forth with her and a police sheriff, where they kind of are there for each other with each other's kind of struggles with what they've seen in life. I think Neve Campbell is very sympathetic in Scream 3. I think it's one of her best performances because you want to see her break out of this, and she gets stronger and stronger throughout the film, but her experiences in Scream 1 and 2 are really, you see the effect it's had on her in Scream 3. And I feel like there's a sense of seriousness to Scream 3, a sense of visceral stakes in Scream 3, and I never feel like this gets talked about enough. No one really talks about it, but I do feel like there's a serious edge in certain parts of Scream 3. I feel like this is Sydney's film, it really is. And it starts off with a lot of stakes. You know, that opening scene with Ghostface killing off Cotton and his girlfriend. I've heard people slate this scene as well. I really think this scene's exciting. I think it's a tense slasher scene. And it's immediately, things have hit home. Things are really serious now. It's still a really fun film though. Like, I really love the chemistry between Gale and the person who's playing Gale. Because in this, they take a unique slant. It's kind of focused on the production of the Stab movie in the background. And the killer's going after the cast members, which is interesting because that wasn't really approached in Scream 1 and 2. And I really felt it was quite interesting to see the killer killing off the people making that movie. Because now, instead of being kind of meta as much, the killer's kind of infiltrating the movie they're trying to make in this movie. So that's the kind of meta edge it has. It's kind of an interesting new take on it. Randy's cameo was great in this. He's a character I absolutely love. I loved seeing that videotape scene. I thought that was kind of ingenious.
Here are some super trilogy rules. 1, you gotta kill her who's gonna be superhuman. Stabbing him won't work, shooting him won't work. Basically, in the third one, you gotta cryogenically freeze his head, decapitate him, or blow him up.
And you really feel for Sydney as she's watching him on that tape. I feel like it's a great performance by Neve Campbell in this film. You really see a lot going on behind the eyes. As I said, Randy shouldn't have died. He really shouldn't have died. He was so much fun. And maybe he could have elevated Scream 3 for a lot of people, but at least we got this scene. And it's one of his best scenes. I love hearing Randy talk about trilogies. It's awesome. I feel like the killer reveal is one of the most unpredictable in the whole series. No one could get this. No one. If you say you guessed who the killer is, you're lying, mate. Obviously, it's Roman, the director of the Stab movie that's getting made. So this guy, this lad who hates his sister and hates his mum and orchestrated this whole thing, became a director as part of his cover to do all this. That's mental. This guy's like been looking over things like the bloody Illuminati. Like, what? He went through so much effort to get in the position of making a film to then go after Sydney. It's madness. But I do feel like this, I like the kind of fact that he's Sydney's brother. I feel like it needed to be something really big in Scream 3. You had to do it. You had to make someone who really has a connection, an emotional bond with Sydney, and you killed everyone off who had that. And you couldn't make Gale the killer, you couldn't make Dewey the killer. So to introduce kind of a brother character and have it be a complete shock, because you never think it's Roman, the director, at any point. And I feel like the actor does well in that scene. I feel like his explanation, he does well. I think he's convincing in that scene, and I think it just gives it a sense of edge and a sense of stakes. Maybe they're false stakes, maybe it didn't work with a lot of people, but I enjoyed it. I've always been highly entertained by Scream 3. I really, really like the film.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
I'm getting another beer. You want one?
Yeah, sure.
I'll be right back!
My next choice is Scream. What can you say about one of the most vibrant, one of the most fun, one of the most fresh, one of the most creative, and full of confidence and enthusiasm horror movies that just took horror into the next millennium? There's so much in Scream. Obviously, this is where the meta idea debuts, and it feels so fresh in this. No one had ever deconstructed the horror genre like this and really went for it. Like Scream, obviously we get Randy's rules, we get Sydney on the phone saying, all the girls do this in the movies and I'm not going to do that, and then later on in the film she does it. the famous Matthew Lillard bit of "I'll be right back." There's just so many clever, very clever, not forced, clever. Every time it's done, it makes sense and it really elevates things and makes you feel this real tribute to horror, this taking the mickey out of horror, but also celebrating horror so much and only doing it when it makes sense, not forcing it. And it's also a slasher film, it's also a horror movie. You know, for some reason the new Scream movies have sacrificed being a horror movie to just be a meta movie. This is meta, this is, you know, it is meta, but it's still a horror slasher movie. It still stands up to the movies that it's, you know, in some ways parodying. It brings in such a memorable and such an iconic new killer to stand up with the killers of the past and gives it to you, gives you brutal kills, gives you slasher movie suspense and excitement. So it's just the best of both worlds. Scream really, really is just a revolutionary piece of work. I think the introduction of Ghostface is just one of the greatest horror character introductions. That mask is haunting and iconic and unforgettable. But the best thing about Ghostface is he's the best of both worlds. Ghostface is a villain that you like to see come back, and you put him up with Michael Myers, with Freddy, with Jason, but he also can be anyone each time. So each time the film is a whodunit, each time you wonder who's behind Ghostface's mask, but you still get Ghostface. So it's completely a genius move, you know, and I think that's one of the things that sets Scream apart, the fact that you never know who the killer is every time, but you always get the return of Ghostface and you get that familiarity, that scary, unnerving, sly, horrible voice, the chilling games he plays with the victims, you know, the way he always chases after his victims, you know, there's this reoccurring vibe of Ghostface. Obviously that mask is always scary and creepy, but again, you never know where you're going to end up with Ghostface. That's the great thing about the character. You know, Matthew Lillard, Skeet Ulrich, Rose McGowan, Neve Campbell, these were exciting, fresh young actors who really do well in this. They really, really do. The movie really does walk the line of making these characters young and mischievous and rebellious, but you don't want to send them to their room. You actually like watching them. There's an immediate flash of personality and charisma when Courtney Cox is on screen as Gale Weathers. This part was tailor-made for her. David Arquette was born to play Dewey, and to be fair to the guy, it's probably the only part he's born to bloody play. Bless David Arquette, but he's never really done anything else where he's kind of delivered, but he really delivers as Dewey. He really does. So likeable, so earnest. A really great character is Dewey, really sweet, you know, a man who helps everyone, listens to everyone, but he's also fun and slapstick and has great chemistry with Courtney Cox and Neve Campbell. David Arquette is a highlight of these Scream movies, and we should never forget that. There's obviously the memorable kills, the opening with Drew Barrymore, one of the greatest horror openings of all time, the kill with Rose McGowan, where she's going up on the door for the garage, crashes into the top. The bit where Ghostface kills the bloody principal. Ghostface doesn't fuck around. He's like, if I'm going to be killing kids and all my mates, I'm going to kill the bloody principal too. He gave me detention last week. It's got visceral kills, it's a violent film, but again it is still a comedic and fun film, and everything just feels, the energy is so much there, of fun. Such a spring in its step, this film. The revelation scene of Stu and Billy is just one of the greatest memorable moments.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
And obviously Sydney stands up to the killers and just kicks ass. She's very much an update of Laurie Strode. It's a great debut performance by Neve Campbell. People are going to be wondering why I didn't put Scream as number one. I mean, there's not much in it. There isn't much in it. You know, it's a fantastic horror movie. The number one is Scream 2.
Sequels suck. No, come on, man. Oh, please. By definition alone, they're inferior films.
It's bullshit generalization. Many sequels have surpassed their original.
Yes, in my view, this sequel is just superior to the original. Believe it or not, some sequels are superior to the original. It's true. This movie comes hot on the heels of an incredibly successful hit movie, and it just retains that enthusiasm. And I think it even takes it further. You know, the confidence shown by Wes Craven in Scream 2, the swagger, the energy, the fun, the passion is just exploding in Scream 2. It's a movie full of this wild creativity and fun. For For me, it's actually more exciting. I think there's more sequences in Scream 2 that had me on the edge of my seat than Scream 1, and that's saying a lot. I think the opening is bonkers and nutty and fantastic, and then they had to come up with something crazy to kind of stand up to that Drew Barrymore opening, and this is nuts. Obviously this girl and her boyfriend go to the cinema and end up getting killed at the cinema whilst watching Stab. I love so many scenes in this. I'll always remember that scene in the university of Gale and Dewey looking over some footage, and then Ghostface starts playing games with them and chasing them around, and Courtney Cox has to hide behind these panels, and Ghostface is so close to her, closest that Gale's come to dying in the series. And then David Arquette's Dewey is behind the soundproof glass trying to get hold of Gale. Then he gets stabbed and you think that he's dead. That whole sequence is so well done by Wes Craven. It's a really ingenious sequence with the way that it's so unpredictable. You know, you really think that one of these characters could go at any point, or you think they could survive. It's edge of your seat stuff. I also love that nutty scene where the killer goes absolute bloody kamikaze, driving the car with Neil Campbell and her friend in it and just smashing in, and then being unconscious, and they have to climb out of the car with the killer unconscious. This is bonkers. This is like crazy stuff. And I think the ideas that Wes Craven and co came up with to make Ghostface doing this and to make the characters get up to are really, really good and hadn't been seen before in a lot of other slashers. Gale and Dewey's romance in this blossoms, and I think it's very sweet. I mean, you gotta say, Courtney Cox and David Arquette were obviously getting together. I don't know if they got together around this time or they were already together, but I think that really helps in their genuine, sweet, falling for each other relationship. They're just an infectious couple. You know, they really, really were. Dewey and Gale, but also I guess Courtney Cox and David Arquette, because it feels so real and you love watching Gale and Dewey fall in love. There's so many little elements of Scream that are not present in a lot of other slasher series. A romance that works, you know, and just characters that work and are long lasting and you want to see them back. The whodunit in this is very intriguing. You're led to believe that it's the boyfriend in this. And then there's a complete curveball thrown when it turns out to be Billy Loomis's mother. Mrs. Voorhees, eat your heart out.
I'm very sane. My motive isn't as 90s as Mickey's. Mine is just good old-fashioned revenge.
Back here, they really did well in not having you predict who the killer was, and when it's revealed, you're not disappointed. You know, I think 4 and 5, it's like, oh, really? But here it's not, oh, really? Because, like, you're like, what is this woman? But then she starts explaining, like, okay, wow, like, it's crazy. This is Billy Loomis's mother. It just gets more interesting, and you're thinking from an angle you haven't thought of for the whole film. It's thrown a curveball in your way that worked. For me, Scream 2 is just so much fun. It's high octane entertainment. There's little jibes in there and jokes about sequels, but it's not too meta in your face. I feel like the characters are really at home with each other now, so they just walk onto set and just have a blast, and you have a blast watching them, and they take their characters to new heights. And it was just Wes Craven on top of his game. You know, everyone was on top of this game. They knew they had a hit. They knew they had something they could just come on set and have great fun, knowing that this was a world that meant something to people and people were getting excited about. And you know, that young hip enthusiasm is running all through Scream 2. And you know, it's only a little bit, you know, it's only a tiny bit better than Scream 1, because Scream 1 is iconic, but Scream 2 is just pure unadulterated slasher, brilliant fun.
I'll wait for video.
What is your ranking of the Scream movies? Let me know. Is Scream 5 your favourite? Maybe. Is Scream 3 your favourite? Let me know. Let's discuss our Scream ranking in the comments below. Please subscribe to this channel, guys, if you're a movie geek just like me, and please click on another ranking on the screen now, and I will see you guys in the next video.